Today, we expose Jaycen Joshua's exact mixed template. Michael Jackson, Mary J. Blige, T. Grizzley, Money Long, In Dior, Nicki Minaj, Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Zac Brown Band, The Weeknd, Demi Lovato, Russ, NBA Youngboy. So if you've heard of any of those artists, you've heard of a Jaycen Joshua mix, whether you know it or not. And today, we're gonna pull back the curtain and give you an inside look behind a typical Jaycen Joshua mixed template. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Jordan Eastler with MyAudioAcademy, and recently Jaycen Joshua has went on an Instagram live, done different mix with the masters, and I've personally had the opportunity to learn under some of his mixing assistants over the years. And my promise to you, if you stay to the end of the video, I'll sprinkle in some tips and tricks along the way, so you won't have to spend hours and hours trying to find different articles that Jaycen Joshua's done over the last few years. Sound good? Let's go ahead and dive into Pro Tools. So as you can see up here, we're starting with the mix bus. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then what we have here is what Jaycen refers to as kind of like his safety nets. There's gonna be multiple vocals within the session. So all of the vocals are ultimately routed up here to the all Vox track. And then from there, we go to the all drums. All your drums are gonna be routed there before it's actually routed out into the mix bus. And then the all music, all the keys, synths, all that stuff is gonna be routed to the all music. Then you have your all effects. That's where all your reverb, all that good stuff's gonna be routed to. The only thing about this one is this isn't routed out to the mix bus. This is actually routed out to the all Vox because the majority of the EFX are going to be put on the vocals. And then down here, we're gonna have these delay throw tracks. If you don't know how those are utilized, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop up a quick YouTube short that we recently did, kind of breaking down how we utilize the delay throws, and this is exactly how he utilizes them as well. From there, we're going into the lead all of the vocals. They're all routed to this lead all, and here's gonna kind of be your vocal bus. This is where he does the heavy lifting on his vocals. Obviously, all your vocal tracks are gonna be routed here. The lead track is an exact duplicate of the vocal bus. I don't think this is supposed to be there. We can just go ahead and take that off. And then we start to get to the actual instruments. So he starts off with the drum bus, or his drum and bass bus, which is the final aux before it actually hits the all drums aux you've seen at the top of the template. All of his, his kicks and his snares go to the C drums. And then from there, we've got a kick preset. We'll go through that shortly. Bass all, that's gonna kind of be your bass lines. High end perks. So high end perks is basically going to be your percussion instruments. It's gonna kind of have like the higher frequencies. So think of your closed hats, potentially an open hat, things like that. Your low end perks is gonna be more of like your shakers, your percussion elements. It's not like your 808 or kicks, but kind of have a little bit of that low end within the percussion. And then obviously these are actually routed to the all drums bus, as you can see. Vocal samples, main music, keys, your guitar, your synth, strings. So all that he does is whenever he pulls in, his track that he's mixing, you would just drag all your keys under the keys all the guitars, you would drag that under the guitar all. If there's no synths in the track, get it out of there, make it inactive. So really that's it. It's ultimately just kind of funneled all the way up to the all aux tracks like we talked about in the beginning of the video, and that's ultimately routed up into your mix bus, which would then be printed. So now let's break down these buses. Let's talk about the plugins. This is the stuff that you came for. That vocal chain, yes sir. The drum bus.
Nice.
We throwing it all in here. You about to get it all. A lot of his heavy lifting is actually happening on the instrument track itself. And the reason why is because every single beat, every single song is going to be unique. But I have seen some consistency of some mid-side EQ on some of these, and just kind of utilizing the aux track as leveling out the instrument tracks. As you can see here on the synth all, the guitar all, a lot of times it's going to kind of clash with the vocals. So as you can see, there's a mid-side EQ here. I typically see him kind of carving out, anywhere from about 800 up into about 2K. And then this shed spread is a plugin just to kind of spread out the instruments. That way all the instruments aren't just kind of clashing with each other. That's literally all that's happening there. They're both identical. And as we move our way up, there's a video where he actually breaks down how he utilizes Soothe as a side chain. I'm going to link that video down in the description. Ultimately what he does is he does a side chain for the keys and the main music, and he side chains it with the kick. So every time that kick hits, It's not gonna be clouded up by the keys or the main music. And as we move up here, there's some music parallel compression. It's an MV Waves plugin. I do believe that it's still in his template. I don't know how much he uses it. It's something there that you may want to experiment with. We've got the synth Mutron, which is something that you can play with your synths. Vocal samples, very self-explanatory. So a lot of the heavy lifting on the bass, drums, and vocals do actually happen on the aux tracks. So let's go ahead and break down what's happening on the bass track. I think the only thing that really happens here, I think a lot of this kind of stays the same. I would probably adjust this threshold until it's hitting about 3 dB of compression. I kind of see that that's going to be a sweet spot there. So just kind of play with that threshold. R bass, just to kind of give your bass a little bit of body. The gate, just to make sure there's nothing that doesn't need to be there. I think he's really using this as a gate. The black box, it almost feels like it gives you volume without gaining voltage, which is pretty cool. A transient designer here, and then we've got a Pro Q3. I've noticed that every once in a while, this is just kind of like a safety net. The bass has a little bit too much low end. He may start rolling some stuff off here. And then he's got this Soothe here as well. And then what he's got up here on the bass, basically this is a master fader sent to the bass all that allows him to kind of trim into the bass all aux. He's gonna have a ton of Waves NLS buses. It's pretty bananas. I've noticed on the bass one, a lot of times if it's hitting too hard, he may make the second one inactive and then the sixth one inactive. I've seen that be a thing that he's done recently. Let's kind of go through these real quick. So it's gonna be mic, boosted the drive at 0.5. If we made this one active, this is going to be spike, mic, then another mic, and then another mic, and then a spike. I'm going to make it an active, and a Nevo, and finishing off with the mic, and then the Pro EQ just to kind of round it off a little bit, add a little bit of shine at the top to help it kind of cut through. It's identical to the C drum, so we're not going to cover that. Keep on moving up to the kick. If you want your kick to smack, there's a preset that he uses. It's a Neutron preset. License not found. But this is kind of just a preset that he uses, the transient designer and the Neutron, to make that kick smack your face. Import your kick, delete what I did, but make sure to pull down that Neutron to your kick. You just want to make sure that your kick is routed to the C drums. Let's go ahead and go up to the C drums. So C drums, like I mentioned a little earlier, that's going to be your kicks and your snares and your 808s. The Shadow Hills, literally it's the exact same chain on the C drums as the bass all. Just kind of adjust that threshold to where you're hitting about -3 to -2 dB of compression. A little bit of R bass to add the body, cleaning it up, a little bit of black box, and then the transient designer to make your drums get to smacking. And then your C drums is going to be routed up here to the drum and bass. And whoa, I know you wonder why I skipped this. We coming back to it. So the drum and bass, nothing's really happening here except for some potential sends. These are some, some parallel things that he's going to be utilizing if the drums and the bass isn't really giving him what he needs. I believe it's just going to be adding some saturation with all of these. Yeah, so, and you can experiment with this. All these plugins that I'm utilizing, they're all preset to Jaycen Joshua's presets that he's going to be using in all of these sends. I think the only plugin here that's a little unique is the standard clipper. Ultimately, what this is doing is if that snare is just hitting a little bit too hard, the kick's hitting a little bit too hard, the clipper is going to kind of smooth that out a little bit, but still keep it punchy. This is Jaycen Joshua's latest vocal chain. Don't be taking those screenshots. I've made your job so easy, man. I've made the template for you. And not only that, I'm letting you decide how much you want to pay for it. If you want to pay $0, if you want it for the free 99, I get it. You may be on the come up. All you got to do is type in that 0.00. But if you've been receiving some value and you feel like throwing in that tip for your boy, my dog. So if you haven't done that yet, be sure to do that. Make your life crazy easy. But let's go ahead and continue to break down the template. So the first thing that he's got here is the Spectra, which is an EQ. From what I've seen, he doesn't use too much of this. It just kind of adds a little bit of character to his vocal. I have seen him kind of experiment with a little bit of 1K boost there to give your vocal a little bit of presence. Then we go to the L-Ray, which is a plugin by Greg Wells. It is created by Acoustica. Forgive me if that's not how you say it. I think he really just kind of taps this from what I can tell. Kind of keeps these settings very similar, very close to what we've got here. Well, I got a little something in my throat there. And the only thing that I've kind of seen him adjust is the threshold to where you're just kind of tapping this just a touch. From there, we're going to the trusty FabFilter Pro Q3, just kind of rolling off some stuff. Just kind of experiment with this. This is going to differ between vocal to vocal. You probably want to be around here down to about 80 hertz. That's kind of a sweet spot. We jump down here to the McDSP MC404 multi-band compressor. This band kind of stays the same for most scenarios. I think he kind of adjusts the threshold to where he's hitting anywhere from about 3 to 6 dB of compression. And then here, I think it's been very similar, 3 to 6 dB of compression. I really don't think he uses this band very often. And then it goes here to where he's doing a lot of his heavy lifting vocal cleanup. He's not necessarily dipping. He's actually making a dynamic EQ, and that's how he's EQing his vocal. This is just starting points, very common problematic frequencies, but please adjust these bands according to your vocals. And then from here, we've got the Slate Audio Fresh Air, adding a little bit of shine, adding a little bit of high end to the vocals. Another instance of the 404, and this is just kind of a safety net. You know, if he missed a little bit down here and he's playing it back, it's like, man, like I don't necessarily want to take a chunk out of it. You know, I just want to make some slight adjustments here. And then the most hated on plugin of the century, the Waves Audio CLA vocals. It's on there, man. He's staying true to it. He's staying true to it. This is kind of what this looks like. I've noticed this does kind of change. I know he adjusts the bite from time to time. I think it goes from spank to wall from time to time as well. But this is a pretty common setting that I see him use. If you don't know about the CLA vocals, basically it's an all-in-one plugin. Pretty cool stuff. And then we go to the Waves Audio C6, which is another plugin just kind of taming those vocals and the frequencies. To my knowledge, it stays around 250. That tends to be a problematic frequency. I've noticed that's been a problematic frequency for me as well. And then this frequency kind of changes. You just kind of adjust the threshold. I think a lot of the attack and the release kind of stays the same. Then the soothe is how we're wrapping up the vocal chain here. He says that this is pretty much a set it and forget it. And yeah, that's kind of what this plugin looks like. The vocal bus here, it's an exact duplicate down to the ad-lib bus. Then the ad-lib bus and the lead vocal bus is routed to the lead all, which is where all the vocals are going to be routed to, as you can see. So what the lead all is, it's going to be a very easy way to adjust all of your vocals in one central location. And I have noticed on the lead all, he does still keep this up here. It's the Eosis plugin, just kind of adding a little bit of air to the vocals. That kind of is interchanged with fresh air depending on the vocal kind of his vibe of the mix. Those are pretty common to live on the lead all vocal track. Then from there, we've got the J Vox comp. So that's this parallel compression. That has not been on the most recent templates that I've been seeing. I think a lot of the parallel compressions coming from the CLA vocals now. That's there if you want to check it out if you download the template. These are just going to be some delay throws. It's just an H delay, an R compressor, just kind of taming it so the the delays aren't crazy and clashing with the lead vocals. A little bit of lo-fi to add a little character. Doubler to spread them out to give these delays a little bit of space so they're not clashing with the vocals, and a little bit of the old school air reverb. These are identical. The only thing is that's changed, and I think this may have a little bit more reverb, and the flange, I think that one just got a little bit of flange. So if you don't know how to use verb throws, I'm going to link a video on how to utilize those right now. That should be popping up. And that leads us up to the EFX. He does not use every single one of these every single session. From what I can tell, he only utilizes a few of these. He likes to have his arsenal ready just in case if he's mixing, he's not having to think. He's already got these presets. So if he wants to go in and add a little bit of the EMT reverb, well, bam, all you do, make it active and create your send track, and you're in there. You can see there's different, some slap delays, some ping pong delays, some just crazy different effects tracks, of course, some reverb. The most common ones that I typically see are going to be the slap delay, just kind of make the vocal, you know what a slap delay does. And then a rap verb, just to kind of give the vocal, a little bit of space without going too crazy. He basically chooses his reverb of choice, and that's going to differ between song to song. You've got a bunch to choose from. We've included decent amounts of Valhalla reverbs, very typical to what he's going to be using. Play around with it, experiment, see what works for each track. That's what he does. That's what you should do. And then all of these EFX tracks are routed to the all EFX track, which is ultimately routed to the all vocal track. From there, we go to the all music, which obviously all the music's going to be routed to. I've seen where he does have the Spectra on there for quick and easy use, and he has this track spacer. He has a side chain to the lead all track. He breaks it down in one of the videos that I've linked down in the description if you want to check it out, the full breakdown. But ultimately what he does is, with this being side chained to the lead vocal track, whenever the vocals start to clash with the music, this track spacer actually carves out the space to make room for the vocal to cut through. It's a really, really cool concept. Jaycen breaks it down a lot better than I would, which is exactly why I've linked the full video down in the description where he's actually breaking it down. From there, we have the all drums bus, another form of the spectra, you know, if he wants to add anything to it, and then the all Vox track, and how he utilizes these all aux tracks. So if he's playing the mix back, it's like, man, I love everything about it. I just wish all the vocals were a little bit louder. Easy. Bam, turn that sucker up. And your money. Oh, my drums, a little bit too loud. Bam. Yeah, boy. Makes it very, very easy to use whenever you start to incorporate into your workflow. And then last but not least, we hit in the mix bus with the one and only, shout out to Cradle Audio and the man behind the plugin, the God Particle. We finishing up the template with that. And if you've made it all the way to this point and you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. We're always bringing the heat. But that wraps up the video. I'm getting out of here. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.